Hey everyone, this is Evil Monkey here to bring you a build for Ultimate Blair's new module Next Level Recipe. I'm nicknaming this build the Fire Train, as you will just mow down all enemies in your path and nothing, and I mean nothing, will stop you. Now I've been very excited for this build for a while because I've been excited for Ultimate Blair. I never thought we'd actually get this, so let's dive into this build. The best parts of this, you're going to have 100% crit rate, perfect cooldown to have all your main abilities up constantly. You will also have maxed out movement speed. You will be fast. And you will also be able to hit the max level on your third ability, as now it has 3 levels. So let's just hop right into this. So before we hop into the mods, I thought I'd explain what each of the builds do with this new module called Next Level Recipe. It changes his first ability to be called Merciless Cuisine now. So you will create flame zones beneath your feet as you run forward, compared to his original one where you had to manually cast it to create flame zones. This is very useful as now you don't have to micromanage your flame zones. His second ability is still the same. Extinguish will give you mana back based off of the amount of flame zones on the ground, and also gives you a modifier increase for skill power and movement speed increase. His third ability got changed to Hot Delivery, which is just an evolved version of his original ability. As the range goes up, you will now get more flamethrowers. It's very nice and is a core part of this build. His ulti is still the same, still Deadly Cuisine. You throw out a giant fireball that does a lot of damage. And then his passive remained the same. For each flame zone on the ground, you get increased crit rate, and anything on fire, you get increased skill crit damage. So, for the mod section of this video, we'll go ahead and break up the mods into different groups based off of what they do in this build. First off, we'll go ahead and start off with the crit mods. So, Blair is kind of unique among Descendants in the fact that he can get a lot of base crit really easily in his kit. Blair starts off actually with 20% base crit, which is pretty high. Plus, his passive also can give him 5% additional crit per flame zone he creates with his first ability, Merciless Cuisine. This actually goes up to stacks of 5, meaning you get additional 25% crit. This is actually additive crit, meaning Blair can get up to a base of 45% crit. This also means you only actually need to run 3 crit mods. And you don't need to run Skill Insight, which gives you more crit, the normal crit mod. Instead, you can run 2 crit damage mods and 1 split crit rate mod, and then we can run the crit rate in our Arche Tree. Now this is actually pretty cool because this gets us a really efficient number of crit. Your final crit, and I'll throw up the math on screen. This actually gets you 100.935% crit. You're just slightly over max crit. Very efficient. So going from crit to the next big thing, which is cooldown. Well, the best things about this build is everything is on super low cooldown. The only thing that's somewhat high is your ultimate, but even that's only on about 22-second cooldown. The bigger thing, though, is your third ability, Hot Delivery, the flamethrower, perfect cooldown, and your first and second ability, Merciless Cuisine and Extinguish, can always be cast. So you will always have your abilities up, and you will never run out of mana thanks to your second ability. Now to get this, you need to run 4 cooldown mods, and cooldown your reactor. Everything is exact. This is how you get your third ability to be on as low as cooldown as possible. So for this though, you gotta run MP conversion, and if you're worried about the mana being gone from that one, because you do lose 15% max mana, don't worry. Blair can recycle his mana as much as he needs to. If you play this correctly, you will never run out of mana. In fact, most of the time you will be capped out on your mana. And then, of course, Nimble Finger's just, default cooldown. And then Focus Fire and Focus on Dimension. Even though it's a small bit of cooldown, you do need every little bit here to make that a perfect cooldown. So this is all very necessary. And in the end, you will actually end up with 81.5% cooldown, or thereabout. Now, if anyone's wondering why we do run Focus Fire and Focus on Dimension, it's mainly because Blair has really low scaling on his flame zones and his burn. They're actually both under 100%. So Focus on Fire, pretty typical. You always want to run skill power in pretty much every build that uses skill power in any sense. because it's a lot of scaling. The reason you need to run Focus on Dimension instead of something like additional cooldown from Multi-Talented is pretty much just because you want to get that scaling above 100%. This will help you get your burn above 100 along with your flame zone damage. It just helps with wave clear. It's nothing too complicated. Okay, now if anyone's wondering why we run skill extension here, it is to get that perfect cooldown on your third ability once again. The other reason also, you just want burn to last as long as possible. While you're running around with your first ability, you do want the flame zones to last kind of as long as possible. They don't have to last super long, but you do want them to last longer if you can. This just helps with that. So one of the more important mods here is actually skill expansion. You do need range in this build. It's for your third ability, Hot Delivery. This actually has multiple levels based off your skill range. To get the max level, you need 100% skill range, so each 50% increases it by 1 level. You can actually tell if it's at max level, because Blair will raise both his hands. With level 1 and 2, he'll only raise one hand. This just helps with AoE wave clear. You will get the 100% from Arche Tree, which we'll cover later. And this one mod, it'll actually bring you to 124.4% range. It's a little bit overkill, but the range also does help with your flame walls hitting more enemies. So that overkill is fine. You can technically go under on it, but with how we do the Arche Tree, you will actually just need all this either way. So, okay, and to round out the mods, the very last one we actually run is increased HP. This is a defense mod. I did try running this out HP, and it felt like I died all the time 400%. You do need the additional HP. The reason why we do run increased HP instead of defense or shields is Blair actually has one of the highest base HPs in the game. I think it's around currently the 5th highest, only really being beat out by people like Glay and Ajax. So HP is the most efficient defense stat on him right now. So you can just go ahead and slot in any HP. I would not recommend shields. Defense is okay, but I would recommend HP the most. You just get the most bang for your buck this way. Okay, now that we're done with mods, let's just hop right into the Arche Tree, as this works a lot with your mods to help you meet some thresholds. One of which is the skill crit rate. You want to grab it, the skill crit rate nodes here, so you can hit 100% skill crit rate. Once again, you're just barely going to be over 100% here. You're also going to want to grab the skill crit damage. This will help a lot, especially with the burn, which has very low scaling, so the crit helps a lot with that. Then you're going to want to go ahead and grab the double purple skill power nodes and the gold one. This is just a lot of damage to help with mainly your flamethrower. Speaking of which, you will also want to grab range for your flamethrower. This will allow your third ability to get its 3rd level, which will help with AoE and give it its max potential. The last thing that we will have here though is your defense. Once again, Blair has really high base HP, so grabbing the HP nodes is the smartest thing. This will just help you survive a little bit more. And that should wrap up the Arche Tree. Reactor time. One of the most important things in every build is to have that perfect reactor, which got a lot easier this patch, and I'll come out with a video later explaining how that whole system works. But for this one, there's only one type of reactor Blair can use, and that's Dimension. That's because 3 of Blair's abilities, the 3 that do damage, are all Dimension based, meaning you can only use Dimension. So, now that that's settled, let's go on to his substats of the reactor. You do need skill cooldown for this build. That's how you get that perfect cooldown that I keep talking about in this video. You have to have skill cooldown. That is non-negotiable. The second substat though, you can kind of change around. I run skill crit hit damage. This is just so that I can get the max amount of damage. You can run fire skill power or dimension power. It's fine, either of those are okay. You can also change it to duration if you want to have your abilities last a little bit longer. My recommendation though is skill crit hit damage and skill cooldown. After your reactor, of course, the next big thing is your components. And as with most builds out there, Slayer is the best for this one. I did try a few different sets. You can technically change this if you don't want the highest damage, but if you want the highest damage, Slayer is your best bet. I did also try the new one, Firebrand, which lowers fire resistance. Slayer still came out in damage numbers by about 20 to 40k damage when I put it up against a max level enemy. This isn't a killing difference. You still will kill everything with that, but Slayer's still just better. If you are somehow running into mana issues though, you can also run Hunter. That's perfectly fine. Though if you are doing the build 100% correctly, you won't have any mana issues. But it's really one of those three sets. Number one being Slayer, second best is Firebrand, and then Hunter if you're running into mana issues. So you may be wondering, what gun is best for the Fire Train build? Turns out there isn't really a best gun. All you really want is a gun that can have 3 sprint speed cores on it, so you can hit that max sprint speed of 1300, which is possible with Blair. And outside of that, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be shooting a gun. The sprint speed will help you create more flame zones, since you'll create one every 7 meters you run. And there is no gun in the game that has a passive that works with Fire Dimension, which is all Blair really has. The closest one is Peacemaker, but that works with non-attribute, so he can't use it. So just run anything that gives you movement speed, and that's it. For the playstyle, well, the playstyle of this build is pretty simple. You are a train made of fire. Nothing will stop you from running it down. No, okay. No, all seriousness, all jokes aside. The playstyle of this build is very simplistic. You essentially rotate 3 abilities. So you throw out your first ability, which will create flame zones. This ability is pretty costly in mana, so you want to instantly cast your second ability, which will refill your entire mana bar. And then you cast your third ability, which is the flamethrowers. And then you just run forward. That is essentially the entire gameplay. Your flame wheels will take care of any stragglers that don't get mowed down by your flamethrowers, and your flamethrowers will kill any elite and any enemy in front of you. Pretty much any boss outside of a Colossi that stands in front of you will just die. But it's very fun. So run down all those enemies. And that's the end for this build video. I appreciate y'all watching. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm also live on Twitch. I'll throw up my link right there. At 2 p.m. each day PST, if you want to chat for Descendant or talk about the builds, I'm always there. And I will also be coming out with another Blair video soon, revolved around his next module, which is Killer Recipe. So if you guys enjoyed this one, don't forget to check out the next one, and I'll catch y'all again later.